Hello, everybody, and welcome to Girl, Let's Agree to Disagree. We are your hosts, Hannah, Cami, Jessica. We're here for our second episode recap of The Bachelorette. Before we get to all of the good, juicy gossip, just want to remind everybody, if you haven't already, click like, subscribe, click to receive our notifications. If this is your first time with us, welcome. You're in for a treat because we have a lot to talk about. And also, Super Chat is a great way to help support the channel. We thank each and every one of you. We are here every, I think we're here every Tuesday, 15 minutes after the recap or after the episode airs to recap for The Bachelorette. We are also coming into almost our 100th episode of Girl, Let's Agree to Disagree. Everybody say, what's up? Everybody's coming in. Hey, ladies, how are you all doing?
Good.
Hi.
Good. So this has been a crazy we have so much to digest right now, everybody. I mean, everybody in the chat, let us know how you felt overall about the episode. We're gonna go step by step. But overall thoughts, ladies.
I thought it was a really good episode. I feel like it was jam-packed without, like, I feel like sometimes these Bachelor episodes can linger on a little bit longer with a lot of fluff, and I feel like this had a lot of meat. So I was really happy with this episode.
I feel like it had me on a little bit of a roller coaster with certain people that I would like to discuss.
It was a lot of this. And I love that she starts with the group dates, because the group dates always kind of start with the drama and then it comes down and then goes up, and there's a lot to digest. Cami, what do we want to start with? Because we have a lot. I have a lot of notes.
I mean, honestly, let's start with the first group date. Like, I feel like the date with the fifth graders, first of all, I love kids. Like, I love seeing kids just, like, bring their little personalities to the forefront and just kind of challenge the men. That always happens on The Bachelor. Whenever they bring in kids, they just have, like, these snappy attitudes that I absolutely love. And those kids, much like the other guys, were not feeling Peter. And I feel like that says a lot. Like, I feel like kids always know. So, yeah.
Kids have a good sense of character. They get the vibe. I feel like they see the energy, maybe the aura of a person. They're kind of like doggies, you know, like when they bark and they just feel like they don't like you.
Yeah.
It's always something. What do you think, Anna?
I agree. They can suss dogs, especially. I don't know about kids. I'm not like around kids a lot, so I don't really know. But dogs can definitely sniff out if you're like good or bad. So I'm sure kids are the same. I don't know.
Look, I also want to say that I love when kids are a part of the group dates. They bring that fun element to it, but it also reminded me so much of Matt's one-on-one date with Michelle, because she also had kids. If anybody remembered Michelle's one-on-one, it was one of my favorite one-on-ones, and I just think that kids ask the funniest and most sincere questions, but it's also like that good PG-13 type of feel. And she looked like her smirk was everything. What did we think about the guys? I mean, they aren't very smart. I'll say that.
I mean, if you're not very smart, then I'm not very smart either, because the math would have definitely stumped me. Like, I would have started pulling out my fingers. I would have been doing like long division or long multiplication. I don't know. Like, there was just the moment that I see numbers, I get flustered unless there's a dollar sign in front of it. So I just feel like I completely understand where they were coming from. And it just brings me back to, like, are you smarter than a fifth grader? And the answer is no.
No, never. No. It's usually never.
No, anything with numbers set me up. The only one I knew was when they were like, "Are two negatives make a positive or whatever?" And I feel like that one's like drilled into you. So I was shocked that some of these men didn't know that.
Yeah.
They love to throw in someone from Harvard. I feel like that's their new casting thing, is to have someone from Harvard. They need the like Harvard mention in there somewhere.
I don't mind so much. I mean, the math, obviously not everybody's going to get. I feel math is a pretty hard subject. But the spelling really, really threw me off. And I'm just, well, first of all, how did we feel about Peter? Obviously, this was the Peter Will drama.
You know what? I honestly feel like maybe it's because Will looks a little bit like my high school ex, but I'm on Will's side. So I just, I know, right? I'm really exposing myself at this point, but like, I just feel like if everyone doesn't like Peter, even the kids, it's kind of like, I don't know. But at the same time, like, I don't know about the narcissist comment. I don't know if it was completely necessary, but it might have just been all in good fun. It could have been a laugh, but
I think the narcissist comment was unnecessary. I think Peter's been annoying so far. Don't get me wrong. Like, his comments are annoying, and I just like don't like his whole trope. But I think that Katie's season, with, if anything, taught us that we can't trust some of these men sometimes, because Thomas was not the villain on that season, that he was made out to be. And so like, when you're like, well, if all of them dislike him, well, all of them dislike Thomas, and Thomas is the only one who is successful in his friend in that season so far, and I feel like he's likable now. So
you know what? Like,
this is interesting, because some people are like, okay, Erica says I don't like Will, so I'm on Peter's side in this beef, but I don't like either of them. So both of them could go, in my opinion. Caitlin says Peter and Will booked themselves a free vacation in Mexico this upcoming summer.
That's true. I mean, honestly, like, back to what you were saying, Hannah, I completely agree. I should be the last one saying if everyone doesn't like someone, then it must be them. But I just feel like, I think maybe I just don't really care about that drama. Like, I wish it was with someone else, like Jamie. If it was like Nate and Jamie going at it, then I would be more invested, because Jamie, we'll get into that, but like Nate, heart eye emoji. So yeah.
Nate could not care less though. Like, I
love his energy.
Is so unbothered. He's just like, yeah, there's these guys here, but I'm not really like worried about it. And I love it. I love watching that.
And that's like the right attitude to have when you come onto these dating shows. It's like, if I always say, like, if someone likes you, nothing that someone else says or does is going to interfere with like that person liking you. Like, I feel like we're all grown. We know that at this point. Like, we're not in high school. Like, if someone likes you, you could honestly probably do the worst thing in the world and they'll still try to find a way to like support you through it to a certain extent.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Agreed.
But moving on to the one-on-one date. Jamie, what do you ladies think about Jamie?
Okay.
Wait,
this is the roller coaster.
We're going to keep this. Yeah, so we're going to keep this. Should we keep this like present tense? Like, what did we feel about Jamie at that moment of the one-on-one date? Not like later, because we'll get to later, but like during the one-on-one date, because I thought it was amazing. It was a really great date.
It was a really great date. I think that just like going back to the group date for a second, like Romeo is the one who stood out to me initially because he just seemed like super romantic. But then Jamie on the one-on-one date, like, I can appreciate when men can genuinely be vulnerable and open. And it didn't seem like, because a lot of the times it does on these shows seem like trauma dumping. And it didn't seem like that. Like, it was a very natural, like, this is what made me who I am, and I want you to understand me. And I really, really appreciated that. Because it's not easy to do that,
Mm-hmm. I agree. And I really appreciate Michelle's response too, and like the way that she is talking. I think it's very different than like we've seen in the past, because obviously not everyone's going to know how to respond in a situation like that. I mean, that's like very serious trauma. But I feel like there was a very good connection with them in that moment. And yeah, it, I don't know how I feel now.
Yeah.
But
I can say, first of all, Michelle's such a boss woman for saying, hey, let's go climb a mountain on our one-on-one, in Joshua Tree of all places. And then let's have this intense, like vulnerable conversation and these deep, meaningful, this deep, meaningful connection. Like the moment was the moment. I didn't, I'll preface by saying that I didn't care for Jamie in the beginning. There was, I don't know, he was kind of that guy who seemed happy for no reason. And they call me the cynic. I'm a very, I was deemed cynical. I took a test and they said I was slightly cynical. But when someone's like just seems like way too happy, like that happy where it's like you can't even crack a frown, or you can't even see like that anything's wrong, that kind of gives me red flags. And so he gave me that type of red flag, right? Like if it's
show me your demons, right?
It's more like a but I get what Michelle was saying like earlier on. Like she wants to see the more serious side, and that's how I understood her when she said it, because it looked like he was very like it was kind of for cameras, like it was very performative. And so that's what I felt. But then seeing this one-on-one, I was like, oh my God, I almost cried, because I was like, this is a rough childhood. I couldn't even imagine, So it kind of makes you understand him a little bit more. You're like seeing these walls break down. At this point, I'm like, yeah, Jamie's a go. And this is a perfect, I don't know, maybe this makes me sound like an ass for saying this, but this is a perfect type of roller coaster, like you said, Hannah. But for me, it's like, this is how women get gaslit, like AF. Like you go through these roller coasters with men that go like show this vulnerability and that do this, and then in turn, and we'll talk about it later on, flips the script, because he built trust. He built this persona in front of you. Gave you a little bit to kind of like feel that
Otherwise,
connection.
an emotional terrorist.
Yeah. And Hannah's looking at me like, I don't know, like maybe I worded it wrong.
No, I think you're.
I don't feel like if we're talking about in the present moment, like when he's like having this conversation and everything, like I don't feel like that's necessarily like a red flag, because I mean, essentially, I think in the real world, if you're on like a first date, maybe every situation is different, but like in this situation, like that is essentially what she is asking you to do, is like basically release all of your trauma, or else you're going to be kind of like accused of not letting your guard down or anything like that, or being vulnerable. And so I don't feel like that necessarily was like manipulating or anything like that in that moment. I think later on we see like behavior that could be that way, but
yeah,
I don't know. It's
I'm
hard
talking
to
about
know
it as
like
a
what
whole.
the intention was. Yeah, it's hard to know what the intention was after we see the things we see later. But in the moment, I didn't feel like it was a red flag. I don't know.
I think that's like the main takeaway. I think, Jess, you're right. Like there definitely, that is something that a lot of people do, but I think, Hannah, you're also right. It depends on what your intention is. And even if it is unintentional, it would be like, a pattern of behavior. Like that, I think we saw some of that, with certain people that we may know, that do use past experiences to, try to make people feel sorry for them, and then use that as a way to kind of just use it against them. So I do agree with both of you guys on that point.
Yeah. And in no way was I saying that he did it specifically on the one-on-one date to get to that point, but I'm saying that the trust was built because I was like, yay, Jamie. I'm like, ooh, he's a front runner. He's gonna be top 5. He does this, you know, he's gonna be top 5 or whatever. And then you see him later on. And the way he words things, the way he worded, I think that's what infuriated me. And we'll talk about that.
I feel like we got to see a little bit of a red flag though, even before the date. To me, when he was like the way he was talking to producers about Michelle, I was kind of like, this is weird because like obviously I'm referring to his comments where he's saying like, well, you know, I have to make sure I like her too, like blah 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 blah. And yeah, obviously it's a relationship, like of course you have to like her too, like that's the whole point of it. But it was kind of like the tone, I think, that he, in the way that he was saying it, it was very like, I don't know the right word for it, but it was very like putting himself up on this pedestal of like, well, I don't know if I will even like her or whatever. And it's like, you're on a show to date her. Like, obviously you're somewhat interested in her. It was just weird to me. And it was like, I felt like that's a precursor for what we see later. And like, he is very centering this whole experience around him.
Himself, right?
And yeah, if that makes sense.
I completely agree. Like that, I was literally about to just say the same thing when he was talking to other guys and was saying like, well, you know, she's going to have to fit into my life, like the lifestyle that I live, you know, not everyone's okay with that. And, you know, we have to see if she's okay with me. And it's like, even if you do feel that way, I don't know if that's something that needs to be said.
No.
Especially to a bunch of other guys who are vying for her attention and her affection. Like, it's kind of, like you said, like positioning yourself as this like prize for her when she's the Bachelorette. Like, and not to say that, you know, she has her pick of the litter and, you know, whoever she picks has to be with her, but like the experience is centered around her. And into the misogyny of it all, but let's not forget what happened with Colton and Cassie. Cassie clearly didn't want to be with him. And then when she left, you know, everyone acted like she was the world's biggest demon, knowing damn well, like, if that happened with Jamie, if Jamie decided he didn't want to be with Michelle at the end, no one would act that way. So, you know, and we'll get into this later about like the positioning between even Michelle and Joe, but I feel like there are a few different guys who it seems like they are acting like they kind of have it in the bag, and like Michelle would be lucky to be with them, and I don't like
that. Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
All right, so we get past his date. Obviously, most of the viewers, I think everyone's kind of like Team Jamie, whatever. And then after that, we get the second group date, correct?
Yes, the basketball date.
First of all, let me say again, power ass move. Like if I could say the person I fell in love with the most was Michelle. Like, I am so in love with this girl. Like, she is so amazing. Powerhouse, like all power moves, boss babe. Shout out to the two WNBA players that she brought in as friends. One happens to be Chicago Sky. Congratulations. We won our championship. So we had a cute celebration for them downtown this past week because they won the championship, our very first championship. I'm all for, like, I love everything about it. But yeah, this was the Joe show.
Yeah, she definitely didn't hold back with showing how much she liked him. even with their like love and basketball moment, like will she make it in the net? If I was one of the guys, I might feel a little bit uncomfortable, but you know, it is what it is. Like that's what she's there for, to build a connection. But I almost wonder how long that lasted, because it lasted pretty long on our screen. So I can only imagine how long it lasted in real life.
You're like if you're playing a one-on-one basketball game with somebody, like seriously, those dudes were just getting to know each other. They were, that's why they bro it up so hard, I think, is because they have so much time with themselves.
And can we talk about Nate being 6'8" and not making it into the basket? Like you could literally drop it into it yourself. Like what is going on?
I found it endearing, honestly. I was just like, this is so cute. Like this goofy little, I mean, he's not a little man, but I thought it was really cute. And I thought it was really interesting to hear the way that the other guys talked about Joe. I think it's like a good sign to hear that, you know, up until that moment, they had no idea that he was like this big time, you know, like he had really not played up how big of a player he really was and like how big of a deal he was. And like, I find that like endearing as well. I like people that it's like, you know, I don't need to talk about it, but like when the time comes, you can perform. And I just thought that was like really, I don't know. I didn't expect that as much. I didn't think he was going to be like as humble about that. So
you mean unlike Peter, who drew pizza slices under entrepreneur and and had like pictures of absolutely everything he would spell, you know? Definitely. It's a nice breath of fresh air for sure. I don't know. Like this whole the one-on-one date, like not the one-on-one date, but the fact that like how do you feel about it being a group date? And I feel like we had something similar happen during Katie's season, but and yeah, it kind of happens where this person's not supposed to be there, but you bring them on to the group date anyway. You bring them on to, you know, you make a special exception. This is like the MVP, like the fact that she is saying, and this is the only, and this is not saying anything bad about Michelle, because I do feel that she is genuine in a lot of different ways. But to say it's an even playing field and you don't know anybody, but you were able to say that this man was 2010, like Mr. Minneapolis basketball, whatever. Like you obviously know way more about him than any of these other men.
Or that he even knows about you. And I mean, to say that it's an even playing field when you, a woman, slid into him, a man's DMs, and like, I mean, women don't just slide into DMs the same way men do. So I'll just leave it at that. Like, it takes a lot for a woman to slide into a man's DMs. So for you to slide into his DMs in like expecting some sort of romantic connection, like there is no even playing field after that. Like that's like me saying like I slid into, I don't know, Michael B. Jordan's DMs, and then Michael B. Jordan is like one of my Bachelorette contestants, and he's on the same playing field as like David from Big Brother 21. Like there's no way. It doesn't make any sense. But I mean, I understand to say that, but
at the same time, I feel like it's like, you know, I'm always a proponent. It's like, you know, it's her season. She can do whatever she wants. Obviously, she wanted him on the date, like whatever. I don't know. I think that this is more like, to me, Joe feels like the guy that like you need to just like really flesh it out with and then move past. I feel like this is the guy that she's like, you know, she had her like eye on him obviously before. And so she wants to, you know, like really dig into that and see where it's going to go. I feel like he isn't like the final dude. I don't know. But for me, I feel like it's something she just needs to get through and then she'll be done with him. That's what I think.
Yeah, I completely agree.
I would agree with that, but wouldn't you think that if that were the case, instead of giving him all of this extra special attention in front of like all the men, wouldn't you just have him as your one-on-one? Wouldn't that have made more sense to just make him your first one-on-one and see what's up?
You know, she doesn't like have full control of that though. Like, she's not. I think that like there's an input, but I feel like from what we've learned before is that like producers have a lot of say into like who has that first one. I feel like they probably knew that she was like somewhat interested in Jamie, but also knew that Jamie was like causing some shit in the house, and so they wanted to like amplify that. That's my theory.
They definitely knew. Makisha says, what scares me though is that it seems like she's more into him than he is to her, and he has the power since she slid into his DMs. Yeah.
It's painfully obvious that she's more into him than he is into her. Like when they were sitting there and he was telling her how his coach passed away, she was like gripping the back of his neck and staring like longingly into his eyes. Like me and my best friend were texting each other, like, look at the way she's looking at him. Like, and it's not even the fact that she was listening so intently. It's like, as a woman, you recognize that look that she had in her eyes. Like, he could have been talking about his favorite cereal and she probably would have still had that same look. Like when you like someone, like it's I hate to see that like she likes, it's obvious to me at least that she likes him so much more than he likes her. And like just reading his body language, maybe he's just kind of like a cavalier sort of guy, but it comes off to me as though like he feels like he has it in the bag. And just like Nikisha said, I feel like it's because like she's already expressed interest in him by sliding into his DMs and then also bringing up how he ghosted her. Like I think that if she would have just acted like, if it was me, I probably would have acted like I didn't know him. Even though I guess there's no way to act like that after you slid into the DMs, so never mind.
It's always gonna get out.
Yeah.
It's always gonna get out. The so Jamie seems to be very bothered by this, but you know what? The thing is that Jamie isn't the person who was initially upset at this. Obviously, it was the group of guys that were a part of his team. It was the group of guys that were a part of his team. I remember, right? People were talking about it on the winning team. Do they know each other? That looks weird. Then, you know, Nate, being the amazing Nate that I think he is, he's like, so like, I don't care. Like, I mean, that's none of my business. I don't care. You know, I'm secure. He's so secure of himself.
I feel like other guys talked about it, but they were not like, it was more of just like, you know, they're all sitting there and like they have time to talk. And, you know, we obviously don't see everything, but to me, it was more of just like, oh, interesting. Anyways. And like they were just willing, like they were just like noting it and then moving on. Whereas Jamie made it like his mission to continue this conversation for the rest of the time.
And you could even tell that like the other guys were kind of trying to talk him off the ledge about it. And he just kept drilling it home. Like, no, like she knows him and I don't like that. And it's like, read the room, you know, let it go. No one agrees with you.
So then what do we feel about this edit then? Because it's very hard for me as a viewer and the way that they cut all of this. Like, well, first of all, AJ said, you know, they also keep, AJ said, but they also keep cutting a lot of the Nate and Michelle scenes. I keep seeing cut scenes posted on Twitter. So producers are definitely pushing that Joe's a front runner, but they're also cutting some things out because it seems to me that obviously men were having an issue with this. It also seemed to me that a lot of people knew that Jamie had an issue with this. So why are all these men saying, who's the person who said this? Who's the person that said this? Who's the person that said this? It's like,
I think that was a bit of editing for sure. But I mean, Jamie is the one who brought it to her, and he decided not to disclose that to, I do think that Jamie like made it a bigger deal to Michelle than it actually was, and made it seem like all of the guys were worried about it. Like maybe they talked about it, but they didn't feel as strongly as he did about it. And then when she brought it to them, like he also didn't speak up to the fact that he's the one who said something to Michelle. So, he's like caught in the middle, and it does make him look bad. So I do think that there's a certain level of editing that goes into it, but his actions still were what they were.
Yeah.
At least to me. Yeah.
Yeah. I just had such a hard time listening to Jamie explain this to Michelle.
Oh my God. I know.
It was just like, wow, everything that you built up during this first date with her literally shot it down within minutes of you just speaking. I also felt like she looked at him. Did anybody else get this feeling that she looked at him kind of with those eyes like, why the hell did I give you this rose? Like, I don't know. She was looking at him kind of like,
I don't know. I don't know if I
don't know.
noticed that, but to me, this was the clear manipulation that I think that like so many women can relate to, that it's like, here, I'm going to create a problem, and then I'm going to bring it to you and mold it as if I am fixing this problem for you, or like I'm the hero in this situation, so that like to like trauma bond them in some way. Like I know that this is not like a serious trauma or whatever, but like it's like the same thing, like to make her, it's to like, us versus them-ify this situation, and that like all of these men are talking about this, but we have this connection that I can bring this to you, when it's like you're the only one that created this shit. Like it in the way he was saying it was just like so like it just made it seem like this is not the first time that we have done this kind of thing, and like pushed this narrative in this way, and it makes me nervous about him. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I think like the saddest thing about this whole incident for me was Michelle was so blindsided. Like you could just tell she had no idea like what to say, what was coming at her. And then she like thanked him for bringing it to her attention. And it just really showed me like how clueless the leads are in these situations. Like sometimes I feel like behind the scenes production's telling them things, but they're really just like clueless in the situation. Like, and Michelle's probably going to find out later on, but I wouldn't even know how to feel. But can we give it up for my girl Tayshia?
She looked phenomenal. She was phenomenal.
I'm sorry, Chris Harrison, who? Like, Tayshia is crushing it as the hostess. And I feel like Tayshia's personality, which is why I love her so much, she's so assertive. Like, when Michelle brought this incident to Tayshia, Michelle was like, oh, I don't know what to say. He said blah, blah, and I feel like blah, blah. Tayshia's reaction, like, it was very, very small, but she's like, so Michelle's like, oh, I feel like, etc. And Tayshia's like, well, then tell him that. I'm like, I know that's right. Like, yes. But
whereas where Chris would be like, well, what would you like, whatever you feel like you need to do, or you go in the direction your heart tells you, or whatever. Yeah. But Tayshia's like talking to her like she's her friend, and she's like, you need to say that. Like,
yeah, and I think that's what I really like about having like Caitlyn and Michelle as like the co-hostesses for the Bachelorette. I feel like the way women like build up their friends, and the way we talk to each other when it comes to men, like a male host cannot relate to that. Like there's no way they can go back to having a male host for the Bachelorette seasons. Like it's just not going to work because you need those bestie vibes, and that's what Tayshia's giving. Pure bestie vibes.
I agree with that. I totally agree with that. Can we have some honorable mentions here? Because I know that we were talking about Jamie's little whatever he did there, because that thoroughly triggered me and pissed me the F off. Seriously. Especially when he's like, I personally don't care, but everybody else does. Like kind of giving those vibes. Like, I mean, I'm perfectly fine with that. Like, I trust you, whatever. It's other people. And she's like, to the point where they're being disrespectful. And he's like, yeah. I'm like, what? Like, what are we not seeing? Like, what are we not seeing? Because that was, wow. Like, dude needs to go. He needed to leave like yesterday.
I'm interested to see how it plays out, because I do think that Michelle is smart, and so I wonder, like, if this is a situation where she realizes this before, or if it's going to be more so like the guys realize it was him. Because I think the guys will realize it, but I wonder if they're going to try to like unionize like all of Katie's men did and, push him out the way that they all did, or if it will be like, I think it'll be interesting to see how Michelle handles these things, because right now I feel like so far she's been very like no BS, and I like that. But yeah, I wonder how like she's going to how quickly she's going to catch on to this manipulation.
Yeah, I think that Nate is going to have the strongest reaction from what we've seen so far, when he eventually does find out that it was Jamie acting crazy. And I can't wait to see it. I mean, the chemistry between Nate and Michelle is like off the charts. That makeout that they had, like,
oh my God,
I would have fallen in love right then. Like, I don't understand what the deal is with Joe. Like, she gave Joe the rose after that. I would have fallen in love immediately.
Erica says she should have done to him what Peter did to Sydney and call him out on what he told her. And you know what? The thing with Michelle is that she's a teacher. You don't think that she deals with little kids tattling on each other 24/7. Like if that's what that's what she's used to. So I'm sure she's that type that is going to be listening to all sides. She's not going to just verbally say this is what's happening, but she's going to like cut it. Like some teachers are just like, I don't care who started it, where it came from, what happened, it's stopping now. Like I feel I get that type of vibe from her, in the best way though, not like a horrible teacher type thing, but she's like very commanding and like boss, BOSS, not bossy. So I'm excited to kind of see how classy, her reactions have been very, very classy. And so I'm just taking notes. I take notes because I would not be like that. That's not how I would handle myself. And so I'm just going to be taking notes the whole time. Like, oh, so that's how I can word that to not sound like a complete and total bitch. Okay. Like I'm going to do that.
Yeah, I mean, Pilot Pete was an idiot, and
exactly.
I don't think that there was ever a thought in his mind of like ramifications of saying that. And we obviously saw what happened with that. Like you said, Michelle's doing this in her day to day, and she knows if you snitch on the snitch, all that's going to do is create more problems in the group environment. Like she's not stupid. Like, would it be messy? Yes. But I think she's trying to like veer away from that. I mean, we would enjoy it, but I don't think it would make her experience very good.
Yeah, it definitely is not her vibe. I love Makisha for saying the way Nate looks at Michelle versus the way Michelle looks at Joe. Like Nate is all about Michelle. It's disgusting to see how, in a good way, in a very, very good way. It's disgusting to see how like all about her. He is, and I feel like he's a very great example of the type of casting you want if you were the Bachelorette, you know, because you can see that Pete and Will are just in there to just fight. I mean, I feel like that's a red flag in itself. I was actually very, very surprised that Michelle kept both of them, but also production. So I also understand that they don't have full control of who they keep. They just know, they just get to keep who they actually want to keep, and you know, production does the rest. But you could totally tell, like, if there was someone like Peter or Will and you're fighting and I can hear you from like in the very first date, I feel like I'd be like, get both of those clowns out of here. Just get
Yeah.
I don't need that.
I feel like having any kind of fight like that, like there's always two on every season that are gonna have like no reason beef between the two of them, and it's like a ticket. It's like a, you know, first class ticket for you to make it to like week 4 or 5. Like you're guaranteed you're gonna be there long enough to flesh it out. There might be some side distractions, like right now there's the side distraction of the Jamie stuff, and that's gonna be the next like week or two. But then it's gonna be you guys, and you're gonna be on your 2-on-1. And mid-season, y'all are gonna flesh it out. We already know.
Absolutely, and I agree. Yes, Caitlin, I would have put Peter and Will on the block. I'd have been like, you two both out. I've been like, you two out. I don't care who it is. One of you's got to go. I can only take one. I'm sorry. But honorable mentions, I just want to say, because I think we passed it, for Brandon, who got that first group date rose. What that was incredibly adorable, but I also feel like Michelle looks at him like he's one of her students, because he has this just, doesn't he have this like kiddish, just little boy vibe? I know I don't want to emasculate him, but which I just did, but he just has this young, like, I don't know how to, like, I mean, he didn't spell anything right. I think that Michelle found that very endearing.
He also looks very young. Like he looks like he just graduated from high school, honestly. Like he looks very, very young. I can't see her ending up with him in any any realm of a possibility. There's no way. Yeah, he looks 17, absolutely. I back to what you were saying, Jess, I was surprised at who got the roses at the end, and especially because Peter got the final or not the final rose, but the final rose of the night. I was hoping it would go a different way, but like you said, production, I knew better than that. I know better by now. But yeah, we said bye to a lot of good guys, I feel. A lot of Mohawks this season, and a few of them went home tonight. I didn't realize that the Mohawk was coming back in style, full force.
Hold on. There's one specific guy that I was wondering. I don't remember if he made the cut. Let me see.
While you look, Hannah, I also want to give an honorable mention to Rodney and his inability to pick apples. He's impressive.
So cute.
I love him.
He is just like the happiest looking man I've ever seen, and like I adore him. He's like top 2 for me right now. I love him.
Yeah. Well, you know how I said that Jamie was just like happy for no reason? Rodney is happy, but it doesn't feel like that with him. If it's like two different kinds of happy. If I don't even know how to explain that.
I know what Rodney, you mean.
It's almost like you're just maybe there's a part of you that just doesn't acknowledge or is a little bit of that, what is it, the nativity? Is that how you pronounce it?
Naivety.
Naivety? Is it naivety?
That's how I say it.
Yeah, naive. Like, yeah, well, yes.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. I wouldn't do well on Michelle's classroom. But yeah, it's the fact that you can't tell like a granny. The fact that you come in as a red apple and call yourself a Granny Smith, the fact that you bite into a Granny Smith and you bite into a red apple and call it a Granny Smith, I'm just like this. You can't make this shit up, and that's so funny. That's so funny to me, and I think in Michelle like laughing and kind of getting to know these guys, it shows a lot about her, that the men that she's keeping around are very kind of playful and young and like, but not like young men, but just kind of like young at heart.
Yeah.
Or, you know, men that aren't trying too hard. Yeah. Hannah.
This is the man that I'm sad left. This Pardeep.
Yes.
Feel like every season there's one guy who doesn't get a lot of screen time, but like everybody latches onto a little bit. And there's always one that I like, you know, we had Grocery Store Joe, and he really like, I mean, he's like big man on campus now.
Yeah.
Pardeep.
Yeah. Hopefully
Yeah.
he gets a shot in paradise.
A lot of
I
it
hope
seems
he
like
does
a lot
too.
of people are hoping for Bachelor in Paradise. Actually, I saw one of his tweets. The very first time, he was the very first Indian to get a rose,
Yeah.
to ever
Isn't that
get a
crazy?
rose. Which, I mean, just goes to show the shit like casting, that like the lack of diversity that there
well,
is in the franchise.
There's so many layers to it, and I think that we like, as a society and like in reality TV casting, like have just started to like break the barrier of like having like Black representation and like that, but there's so many layers to diversity, and it's like for that to be the first like Indian man to make it past the first night, that's insane.
Yeah.
For that to be that long just to get a rose, period, that's crazy. And it's just like, there's so many different layers to it, and you know, I think that it's gonna be a long time before we really like have a genuinely diverse group that's like representative of like what the population actually is. I don't know. It was just, I was shocked when I saw that.
And I feel like a big part of it is like not only casting like the contestants of like varied backgrounds, but the leads being open to dating people who aren't, you know, just blonde hair, blue eyes, or like, you know, petite brunettes. Like, so yeah, like you said, there's a lot of layers to it. So
yeah.
Jess,
did you have any more honorable mentions on your list?
No, I think those were the only two that stood. I think that those were the only two that stood out. Kemi, is there anything?
The only thing that really stood out to me tonight, I already said, like, I don't understand when the Mohawk came back, but there are like 4 Mohawks this season. There are like 3 blonde dye tops as well. Like, there's
I don't like it.
Yeah, that's not my thing. And I don't like Mohawks either. I have never liked them, and I just don't. I thought that we laid it to rest with the jeggings, but apparently not. But yeah, as far as this episode,
not the jeggings.
I think the hair is very like Lance Bass vibes to me, and I don't like it. I don't like it for Michelle.
Okay,
if you have blonde frosted tips, this is no offense to you. It's not my favorite look. That's it.
True.
But wait, can we talk really quickly about like, I don't know if this is technically a spoiler. Like, if you don't know who the next Bachelor is, then don't listen to this next part. But I feel like everybody knows this, and it's very like not a secret. Clayton, where is he? What are we supposed to be getting from this? Because there's nothing interesting about him so far that we're getting.
Sure we're
there's nothing that we're being shown. What?
I'm sure we're gonna get like some emotional combo where the screen is like Ken's burn into his face, and like we're looking longingly into his deep blue eyes, you know, by force. And we hear something about how he broke his leg and didn't make the all-star team for the Olympics or something. And then now he's our bachelor. I think that's what's going to happen. We're going to hear some boring tale about, and I'm sure he's a perfectly nice guy. Like, who knows? But
Yeah.
I just feel like we are in for another Crystal season, and you know, we're all just we're gonna wait for the women to carry yet another season.
Yeah, I wanted to start right now by just saying disclaimer, because what we're saying is obviously a spoiler. So we apologize for those who do not like to be spoiled. If you don't like to be spoiled, you can leave it right now because we're probably going to get off on it.
It's a little late.
A little bit, a little bit of a tangent. Well, Hannah, you did give them about 5 seconds to get off, if that was so at least we did that. But just letting you all know that what I'm about to say right now would also be kind of considered a spoiler. So if you don't like spoilers, I'm not sure, but one of the what has been saying, I see some people in the comments that posted it too, was that there was going to be a bachelor back to back. So as Hannah mentioned, Clayton is going to be the next bachelor. Why, we don't know, but if it was anything that Caitlin said, the fact that could it be the fact that the that ratings have been lower. If Michelle is being considered lower ratings than Katie, it would make sense for Bachelor to be kind of back to back, since they also had Bachelor back to back. But I don't
like that.
I don't like it. I obviously, as someone who would love who wants to support the Bachelor, obviously this was founded on The Bachelor, so that is always going to be kind of, I would assume, the bread and butter for the show, because that's what it was founded it, and that's exactly, and that, thank you, Kemi. But but the whole diversity aspect that Hannah said, you know, it's very concerning when someone like the Bachelorette had, and I really appreciated Michelle for saying this, is that truth is that whenever she's with a man of color, she's with a Black man, whether he be light skin or black skin, obviously they're dating. But if she was to be with a white man, they're not. It's that's just the way the world is portrayed. Like, that's how she's being portrayed. That's obviously, a bias. It's obviously what people who have been watching The Bachelor have been accustomed to. Like, the fact that this could potentially be the first, Black, Bachelor couple in a Bachelor season, not Bachelor in Paradise, because that was Riley, that was Riley and Marissa that just happened last month. I don't know. It's like the world's just not ready to see it, and they're not supporting it either. So it's almost like people are still banning the show.
Part of me wonders, though, like, I don't doubt that is an aspect, because I am not like naive to the fact that there are people who like are not going to tune in when it's just like a lead who looks a certain way, or if the cast looks a certain way. I think that definitely is happening. But I also feel like there's been so much burnout. Like, Katie's season was not enjoyable for me to watch, and especially towards the end, I really didn't enjoy it. And Bachelor in Paradise just ended, and like, it just feels like a lot to me, and it's not as like special, I feel like, because don't get me wrong, I'm enjoying Michelle's season so far, but I feel like it was something that I used to like really look forward to, because I had to wait a couple months for it. And it's like something, it's kind of like like with watching shows now on like a streaming platform, it's sometimes not as rewarding as like, you know, when you were a kid and you had to wait like a week or two to watch something because you're just getting instant gratification. But it's like long term, none of these people are like really sticking with us. I feel like the way they used to, and like
Or
they're
with each
not making as
other.
much of a lasting impact. Hmm.
Or with each other. They're not sticking with each other too. And I
Yeah,
think that
exactly.
especially after the Bachelor in Paradise like snafu, like that kind of cemented in even just the casual's mind that like the magic is kind of gone from Bachelor Nation. And then you see Katie and Brian, they didn't even last like what is it, like
Right.
3 months?
Blake.
Blake, Katie and Blake didn't even last, into the next season. So it's
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
Yeah.
for those of you who are tuning in and didn't know this information, we posted it on our Twitter yesterday. Katie and Blake both posted on their social media sites and put out their, what are those called? I don't know.
Statement. Like
Their
they're
statements there. I was gonna call them their notes
no,
app. No, there's no app statements. But yeah, that you calling it quits. So they both put out separate statements. They're no longer with each other. Not many people are surprised about it.
yeah, I feel like it's a combination of that, and like I also know certain people talked about like I don't really watch sports. I don't really care, but I think there's been a lot of sports things going on during like the time slot for like when things are going like when this show is going on. I think it's weird that it's on a Tuesday. There's like the whole Bachelor Monday. That's like the whole
Yeah.
thing. People literally have like shirts and things that say like Bachelor Monday that they would buy. And it's just like, it just all feels off. And I think it's really disappointing because, you know, Kimmy and Jess, we were all talking about this before. I think this is the first season, at least from the first two episodes in a while, that I feel like feels like a normal Bachelor or Bachelorette season that we've had in like the past year. Like it feels the most, the production quality, the just all of it feels the most bachelory in a way since we like that
Yeah.
we've had in a long time. But it's like all of the cards are stacked against it for it to not perform well, like viewership wise, because it's just a weird time, like slot time and then time of the season as well, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Time of the season, slot time, and two botched like seasons prior to. Like, let's forget. Like, I think Katie's season alone would make people not want to ever watch The Bachelorette ever again. If you're watching that, and if you're still thinking that people or watching Claire and Tayshia season, although Tayshia actually kind of salvaged it, it was still a shit season compared to the fact that they're like running around in the villa creating, cardboard cutouts of a city and eating hot dogs out of a fucking cart. Like,
and speaking of which, I was on Reddit earlier today, and it looks like Dale and Claire are
back on,
I
back
think
off.
so. Yeah, they're on
I
vacation together.
literally, I could not care less about either of them. Them being together, them not
I
being together.
cannot. What is
It
this
feels
mess?
like it feels like the most toxic thing. Like I don't
Thank
even
you.
we didn't even get to watch them long enough to truly even know anything about either of them. And so like I recognize that, but I feel like every girl, like either you had a girlfriend in high school who had a boyfriend that they broke up and got back together every other day, or you were that girl. And I'm sorry to tell you, but it is not healthy to be that way. Like this
Yeah.
is not normal behavior at all.
Not only that, oh God, and I'm just, can I be petty for a second? Not pet. I don't even know if this is a petty statement or this is just, I don't know. Take it as you will. I apologize if I'm offending anybody, but seriously, for her to be as old as she is, aka 40, and you're still dealing with this fucking toxic ass bullshit relationship is really disheartening to women who think that they're in toxic relationships in their 20s and are looking at a 40-year-old woman saying like, oh, fuck, it doesn't get better. It doesn't get better. Like, you can be as old as you are and you still won't learn. You still won't recognize garbage ass behavior. You still, I don't even know. And I want to say by saying
Maybe
like
she's
she's
the
going through a
problem.
lot. Yeah. Well, she's going through a lot, right? Her mom passed away, didn't she?
Yes.
So she's kind
She
of grieving.
did?
I heard that's what I read. I thought that she had passed, that she
Oh.
recently passed. So I want to,
Well, that's really sad.
I want to give grace and say like, that's really hard. So if it's because she's finding comfort in with someone who understood what she was going through,
Mm-hmm.
then yes, I mean, it is what it is, but that makes sense. But if you're literally bringing him back into your life after like 4 unsuccessful breakups or, you know, whatever it is, then yeah.
Some people have said in the comments, I don't think she has passed away. I think she's still in hospice. It seems like she's still
Gotten
not
worse?
doing well.
That
Yeah,
she's
like
gotten worse. Yeah.
she's just progressively getting worse, which is still really sad. But yeah, I don't. And then there was the whole thing with her like tagging Abigail in that picture on on her breakup post, or not breakup post, but you know, the post of her talking about like basically, I'm done with Dale, was
Yeah.
the point of it. It was so odd. It was just really odd. I don't know.
Yeah, and I do think you're right, Jess. She is too old to be playing these childish games. I mean, we are all too old to be playing these childish games, and she's older than we are. And I feel like it's also like, you know, you have been in Bachelor Nation for, you know, years at this point. You know the fan base that is associated with it. And I think that at a certain point you have to recognize it. And you know the way that your actions can like influence it. So yeah, it's unnecessary.
Yeah, I think at a certain age, you either realize it or you don't, that people, you can't change people. You're not the sole purpose of one's complete change in character. You're not like, when they show you once is usually what or who they are, you know, and they say, you know, I forget what the saying is. Is someone remind me of the saying?
It's
like, show
like
me who you are.
It's like when someone shows you who they are, believe them.
Believe them the first time. You know, it's something like that. I mean, I believe that people can change, but I don't believe that I can change a person. I feel like the person needs to want to change. And I also feel like, you know, at a certain age, you just realize that you can't win every single argument and you can't always want to be right. You can't, you know, there's pick and choose your battles, you know? So she's putting herself out there to be, I don't know, to be criticized, to be judged, and to, you know, and we're all human, but I don't know. Especially when you're that public, it's kind of, and you're putting statements out there and you're tagging people and you're literally telling people your business like that. I think it's I don't know, how do you all feel about, I feel like horrible for even
is that your
trying to judge.
Is that your first agree to disagree statement? Because that's what it's feeling like.
Right? I'm like, oh, that being said, that was Kemi's introduction to let's get it done. It is time for our agree or disagree. that went the wrong way. That could have gone really like sad. But for those of y'all who are new to the show, we have a segment we try to have it every single episode. It's called Agree or Disagree, where us three as hosts will give a statement, and you as those in the chat and ourselves will agree or disagree with the statement by giving a thumbs up or giving a thumbs down. Okay, who wants to start? And of course, if you all have any comments or statements that you would want us to disagree or agree with, put them in the chat. Who would like to start?
Well, I just wanted to say that, okay, do we agree or disagree that Will calling Peter a narcissist was all in good fun? Like, was he just being playful? He might have, like, narcissist is a strong word. So, maybe it was just all in good fun. Do we agree? Do we disagree?
Okay, so the question to agree or disagree with: when Will called Peter a narcissist, or spelled Peter when spelling narcissist, was that all in good fun? It was all in good fun. Agree or disagree in the count of 3. 1. Wait, this is a good one. Okay. 1, 2, 3.
I feel like it was all in good fun. Like, I don't think he genuinely thinks he's a narcissist. I think he was being petty, but I think, he was being cheeky.
What's the saying? I'm here all about sayings that I don't know. What's the saying? Sometimes there's truth in lie, not truth in lies. There's truth in jokes, like, or whatever.
I know.
Is that a saying? I don't. English is not my first language. I apologize. Yeah, there's always truth in every joke or something. Like, you joke with somebody and there's like some type of truth to it. I do think that he thinks he's full of himself. Narcissistic. I think I get what you're saying, Kemi. I think that he was trying to be cheeky about it. Maybe doesn't consider himself a narcissist or consider him a narcissist, but somewhat close to it. And it was definitely not. He thought maybe it was going to be a fun read, and it came out not a very fun read.
I think that Will can read the room, and like everyone kind of felt like Peter, because you saw guys like DR sessions about it, but like I feel like everyone can kind of see that Peter was like, a little bit in the camera, and Peter was the one to kind of just like bring it to the forefront and be like, bro, So that's the way I saw it. But I guess split opinions on that one.
Okay. Who's next? Would you like me to go first, Hannah?
Sure, you can go.
Okay. Okay. Agree. Agree or disagree? Michelle is choosing to ignore the red flags in Joe because love and basketball, baby. Agree or disagree? Michelle is choosing to ignore red flags because she sees them in Joe. 1, 2, 3.
Definitely.
It's one of these things where I'm thinking like, wait, you legit sent someone home because I need to be, she's like, I need to not ignore my red flags. Yet Mr. Joe here has a permanent red flag stuck to his forehead. And she's just like walking along like that one doesn't exist. I mean, that red flag is different. I think it's like purple. Maybe it's a little brown. I don't know.
I could never imagine someone leaving me on red and just like ignoring it like it didn't happen. I would be raging, honestly.
Okay.
He'd be home.
I feel like this is more, I don't even know that it's necessarily Joe giving off red flags. I feel like Michelle in this situation is like, the one who, like, I think this is like a redemption chance for her.
Pink flags. Yes, he's giving pink flags, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't feel like we've seen anything terrible on his part yet. I just think that she's being like I said, I think this is like a redemption arc chance for her, because it's like, I feel like it's also part of like, it's like a hit to your ego when someone doesn't respond to you or like
Yeah.
reciprocate when you are like interested in them. And I feel like now the roles are like reversed in this situation. And like, I think she wants to like let this play out long enough that like she gets her like, you know, she gets like a boost to her ego from the situation.
Yeah, and maybe she just wants her fix with him to see like if he is like who she built him up to be in her mind, because that, I feel like that is another reason why any woman would show like significant interest in someone. Like a lot of the time you build them up to be someone who they may or may not be, but you haven't done the legwork to find out yet. Like if you have a crush on someone and it lasts long enough, you start to think about like your ideal like guy and how they would fit into that category, and like you don't even know that about them yet. So she might just be trying to figure that out to see if he is actually on that pedestal that she put him on.
Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of people. I see some people here that are saying like that they feel like he's here to kind of get some clout off of her. I don't know. I feel like that's more Jamie's style, but who knows? Okay.
All right. Okay. So agree or disagree? I think that this will be a successful season in that I think that she will actually end up with someone from the season. Whereas lots of our previous, most recent seasons, the odds are not great and sometimes they don't actually get engaged. I think that she will at least have a successful season.
Okay.
Agree or disagree?
Agree or disagree? And 1, 2, 3. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yay.
I think that she's definitely not one to just settle for someone. I think that also I feel like she's also, there's so many eyes on her, just from as a teacher, right? There's so many children that look up to her, and there's so many, parents that know her. There's so many, I feel like there's a little bit of like this person, not persona, because she doesn't give off a persona like she's trying to be this way, but I know that part of it is her making sure she's true to herself, and that she wasn't just going to be with someone just to be with them, because that would just be worse in my opinion. I don't know.
Yeah.
Then you have a Katie thing going on when you knew that she shouldn't have been with Blake in the first place. I don't know. That was just then you have, I don't know, after the final rose, and she's still hooked on screaming at the person that she actually wanted to get with,
Yeah. Well, I think we'll just have to see.
Yeah. So this was a good one, y'all. Like this is pretty much, we pretty much talked on everything. Next week looks like it's gonna be a pretty good one. It seems that Jamie, Will, and Peter will still be the drama makers, auditioning for who will actually get the Bachelor in Paradise audition. I don't know. That's what it seems like to me. But does anybody have anything else?
No, nothing else.
No,
I feel like we covered everything.
Yeah, we pretty much did. And so just letting everybody know, click like, subscribe, click to receive notifications, share this with people that you know if they're watching The Bachelorette or if they want to get into The Bachelorette. Thank you all so much. We were trying to figure out too if we wanted to do like the Tuesdays after the episode, or last week we did Wednesdays at 8, mainly because some of these episodes are going to be 2 hours, some of these are going to be 3 hours. Who knows anymore? I mean, it'll probably start on Monday and end on Wednesday. We have no idea. But let us know in the comments if you prefer to have these recaps right after the show. We usually do them 15 minutes after the show ends, or if you'd prefer to have them on Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central Time, so that whoever's watching Survivor could watch Survivor and then hop onto our recaps, give you a little bit of time to watch it on Hulu or whatever else it is that you do. Let us know in the comments. Also, make sure that you follow us on all of our social media handles. Follow us on IG and on Twitter. The handles are at the bottom. I'm like, see,
yeah,
this is what
make sure that you, if you do have a preference for when it is, leave it in the comments on the actual video, not in the little chat here, because that'll go away. So if you're dying for it to be on Wednesday or Tuesday, then just let us know.
Yeah. So thank you all so much. We love you all. Make sure. Oh, and in the next couple weeks, we will start having co-hosts that will be coming with us to recap the season. So we're excited to let you know who that will be. So the only way you're gonna know is to follow us, and make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell so you are up to date with everything. We love you all so much, and we will see you next